Welcome everyone to Create with Chris. Thank you for joining me today. I am going to be painting a patriotic star. It's in the center of this plaque, but just a fun, quick and easy project, and you can use it as an ornament by itself, or you can put it in the center of a plaque or do several of them and make a little collage out of them. So I am Chris Haughey, and I am the owner and founder of Cover Distributing, CD Wood Stencils, Pixelated Palette. Today, manning the questions is Lindsay on my left. And so if you have any questions, she's going to monitor them and pass them on or answer them, and we'll address them as they come. So are we ready to get started? Okay, I did this plaque probably about a year ago, and I put it on our frame board, and this is a two-piece frame board. I thought it was such a fun design. Did a little bit of the faux tissue paper in the background, and I did a video on that probably a couple weeks ago. So if you're interested in doing this complete project,
I'll link it.
Lindsay's going to link all the information over there, but today we're just going to work on this star. It's such a fun seasonal item, and this would be great to put on any wreath. There we go, Jen, we're doing your wreath. Put it on a wreath. You could do several of them and just change the little words on the banner. This is a two-piece ornament, and it is the banner and the primitive star, and I did go ahead and base coat this. Let me zoom in a little bit. The top is deep midnight blue. Oh my goodness.
Uh-oh.
I do have issues with the zoom in, zoom out. Okay, so the top is deep midnight blue, and the bottom and the banner is bleached sand. So these are the two colors I'm using to just base coat it. The surface is an MDF surface, and because it is wood, I did go ahead and seal it with a good coat of multi-purpose sealer. I like to use, let me find it over here, the DecoArt brand or the Josonia brand. Both of them are excellent. I think anytime you use a wood-based product, it's well worth your time to go ahead and get a good base coat on this, because that way you know for sure that the paint's gonna stick and you're not gonna have any issues with it lifting or peeling or chipping or whatever. You are good to go. So right off the bat, what we're gonna do is put a little bit of crackle on here. Now, crackling used to be kind of an ordeal. There's a lot of crackle products out there that give you a really good crackle effect, but I'm not a very patient person, so to have to wait for the products to work and activate, it just kind of tries my patience. There are crackle stamps, which are really nice to use, and the one that I love is, I'm going to get in here. This is called Clean Grunge Stamp Set. So if you're looking for a stamp set that kind of has it all, this one is excellent. You get the little postage, postmark section, you have some scrolling, some script, some vintage like note, and then the crackle. So I use this a lot. In fact, that's what I used for the background on this, to give a little bit of design in the background. So if you want to go the stamp route, this is excellent. However, we've just created a new crackle stencil, and I'm really anxious to give this a try. Oh, let's see, we'll go this way and get, I wanted to show you the difference. So I've got my little test board here. And if you are doing a crackle stamp, I think I'm going to go dark. Okay, I've got some splatters on here. These are my little play palettes. So I just do different things on this to kind of see how things are going to work out. If you are using a stamp I recommend that you use a very flat, dense sponge. I'm going to just take and pounce it on my palette to make sure the paint is evenly dispersed across the bottom of the sponge. And then just apply it to your stamp very lightly. If you press really hard, you're just going to get big globs. Press it down and lift, and then you get this beautiful crackle effect. Well, now that we have this crackle stencil, I'm going to do the same thing. I use my Spectacular stencil brush. Just going to get a little bit of that bleach sand. And I wiped it over a paper towel to remove the excess. And just gently dry brush this on. You don't need a lot, and you're going to get that crackle effect as well. So I'm just going to go with the stamp on this.
You mean a stencil?
The stencil, yes, Lindsay, thank you. Just going to lightly, very lightly dry brush the crackle over this. And lift it up to get that crackle effect. Now, if I think that's not enough crackle, I can just move it a little bit and add a second layer. And it's going to create a more dense crackling texture. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a quick dry. And if I think this is a little bit too much stenciling, I can do a couple things. I can take just a very fine grit sandpaper, and I can just kind of go over that. It's going to mute it down and not make it so vivid. Or I can take a wash of Deep Midnight Blue, just a very, very thin, light wash. I'm just going to get a hint of color. This is the 3/4 inch oval wash. It's absolutely wonderful. And I'll just go over that a little bit just to soften it down. So there's a couple different things you can do if you think your stenciling or your stamping is just a little bit too intense. Let's give that a quick dry. This is a primitive rustic star. I should say rustic because it's a primitive shape. So I painted it with a little more antiquing. If you wanted this to be a brighter color, you can definitely switch it up and go with like the true reds and the brighter blues. Just really gives it a totally different look. Now that we have that dry, I want to just darken the edges a little bit, and I'm using Payne's Gray, my powerful color. And I'll just take my 1/2 inch angle, loading it on the toe of my brush. I have quite a bit of water in my brush because I want the paint to move very freely, and I don't want to have to reload often. And I'm just scooting it around the outer edge to darken that down. I can always go back and add more if I don't think it's enough. Payne's Gray is a very strong color, so we don't want to overdo it. Not too worried about this middle section because the banner is going to cover that up. And we'll let that dry for a minute. And while that is drying, we'll just skip down to the stripe area. And I'm using deep burgundy. Again, if you want a brighter star, go with white and maybe my favorite color, watermelon slice, for your stripes. These stripes are not super intense. They're very almost kind of a faded look to them. That's kind of what I was going for, as opposed to a nice, thick, heavy, bright red stripe. Now usually what I'll do is start in the middle and create a stripe, but when I did that, it ended up white on the edges, and I wanted the white to be on the inner edges and not the outer edges. So I'm just going to kind of create a width there. And I'll start, I'm going to have to go this way. And just pull it straight down. And I have a light, just a very light application of color. This is a number 8 flat. And then I'll just match that up on the other side. One thing nice about primitive, you don't have to be too perfect. And I'm going to make this outer stripe. Going to widen this a little bit so that the white stripe is a little more evenly spaced. And we'll go over here, add that. And pull this one down as well. And because my paint is fairly thin, I can go back and wash over that until I'm satisfied with the way it looks. Put your banner on there, you can see if it's going to work out well. It's going to be fine here. Got over the edge just a little bit. I'm just going to go in and lift some of that off. I've got a clean brush. My paint's still very loose because I used a fair amount of water, so I can move it wherever I want to move it until I'm happy with that nice edge. I like to use a lot of water when I paint because I can move the paint around to get the look that I want. I'm gonna let this set up and dry for a little bit. I did go on put some little dots on here. I kind of lost them when I painted. And what I'm doing, I'm just marking where the location of these stars are going to be. And I did a little tracing paper here, just to kind of put the center location of the stars. And if you mark where the center is, then you know that they're going to be just about the right location. And what I did earlier, I thought this was kind of perfect. I lined my stylus up and I put a mark there. And I lined my stylus up here, and it was in the same location. So you can use different tools. I have a hard time getting things nice and even, so I want to make sure that they're in the right position. And putting a dot in the center is perfect because when I go in to stencil my stars, I know exactly where to position my template so that I can get my stars in the right place. I am using my handy helper, and this is one of the many helper tools that I created because I have a hard time with circles and ovals, little snowflakes and stars, and I think there's a total of 5. Okay, here's one with just circles that go down really teeny tiny up to a larger circle. There's one that has triangles and rectangles on it, just really, and squares, just super handy to create those shapes easily, and we all need those little helpers to make us look super good. I am going to be using the traditional star, and you could go with a primitive star, but I'm going to be using traditional, and just pick out the size I want. Because I have that dot in the center, I know exactly where I want to locate that. You can still see where it's located. I'm just going to pounce that on there. To get that a nice soft stencil in there. And I am going to wipe my stencil off after each application because I want to be able to see through it and not have, and know I'm lining it up perfectly. And I want to keep it straight. Now these are kind of close together, so I'm just going to use this so I don't get on that side over here. You can use tape as well. I kind of like just being able to move that around. And that's why these edges are not all straight, because you can scoop the edges around the design and get a nice stencil in there without having to move it or tape it all the way. So I can, if I wanted to, I could just put that there and stencil that in, wipe that off, line this up. And I'm going to put this on there real lightly because I want to make sure I get them in there. Spaced apart. Okay, that looks good. Just going to really make that pretty solid. I don't have a lot of heavy paint on my brush, but I have enough on it that if I tap it several times, I'll get enough coverage. Having more paint when you're stenciling is not always a good solution. This one up here needs to be just a little bit stronger. Okay, there we go. So we've got our stars on there. Once we add this on there, it's going to look great. And let that dry. We're just going to jump around and kind of back and forth, one against the other. This may need a second coat on it. I don't think so. I think it's looking pretty good. At this point, if I'm thinking that I need my crackle to be a little bit stronger, I can go back and just lightly dry brush over that to add a little more crackle in there to maybe enhance that just a tad more. It's always easy to go back and forth as opposed to getting too much on in the beginning and then having to worry about trying to remove some of that. I am going back down to these red stripes and I want to darken them down just a little bit. And because I'm using a primitive star, I'm going to go with Antique Maroon, which is a little bit darker than that burnt or deep burgundy. Using a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch angle, whichever you have at hand. And I just want to float it down this outer edge. I have enough paint on my brush that you should be able to really get a nice float from top to bottom without reloading. It's just going to tidy up that outer edge, make it nice and strong. Now I don't want a straight line on there, so I'm going to go back and clean my brush, just soften that blend with a clean brush. See how that begins to soften it instead of having that harsh line between the dark and the light. And I got a little bit out of my line here, so I want to go back and clean that up. Again, if your paint is loose, you can move it around very easily without having to go back and paint over it and mop it up or redo it. Going down both sides of this red stripe. With that antique maroon, it really brings a nice richness to it and enhances that primitive effect. Make sure you have enough water on that brush to move it quickly, or I should say easily. And see how thin this line is by putting this antique maroon on there. Just makes it look fantastic. Now let's go back to these stars. Because this is a primitive, antique kind of stars, or ornament, I want to tone that star down just a little bit more instead of having it such a bright color. Using a little bit of burnt umber. I'm still working with my 1/4 inch angle. Very thin. And I'm just going to scoot that around the bottom edge of that star and just bring that in a little bit more so we get a nice hint of color on that. Very washy, so I can take my brush and just really move it around. We'll let the top part be a little bit brighter. Again, this is burnt umber. This is such a rich color. And if you're doing primitive or rustic, that just is perfect. I like using an angle because that toe just kind of tucks in everywhere. And you can see what a difference between the ones that have a little bit of shading, antiquing on it, if you will, and this top one that's super bright. Just tones it down and gives it that look, that vintage kind of look. And it still gives it a nice, oh, wrong way, Chris. There we go. While we have that same color on the brush, I want to bring it down the white stripes. And I want them to stay white. I don't want them to turn brown, so I'm just going down one side of the white stripes. And this is going to balance the top with the stars with the bottom. And just having enough water to walk that paint around makes it so easy. You don't have to fuss with it. If you're taking a long time to shade, you just don't have your brush loaded correctly. We're going to let that set up for a little bit, and I'm going to work on this banner. Now, I always have to think about this. The banner, and I did bring my pencil in. The banner side, and you can go to your paper or your pattern and transfer that on, but it comes down and it goes down to that corner. And I'm going to erase that line there so it get it right here. This comes down It's kind of an S shape. For me, it makes it easy to have that line there because I can see exactly where my shading's going to go. And I can scoop it around and just blend it out. I want it to be soft. And then I can tuck a little bit in there. I like to leave that little edge down here white. So we go down and around. Move that paint. You got plenty of water on your brush. You should be able to move it for quite a while before it starts to tack up. If not, you don't have enough water on your brush. And we'll tuck a little bit under here. And leave that, just that little edge. Just that little edge a little bit lighter so that we have a nice banner shape. And we can put a little bit on this side. But because that fold edge is a little darker, when you add it on the front, it just helps to define that area a little bit more. I don't want it to be brand spanky new. I want it to look a little bit vintage. Do have those tails just a bit more, just the tips. Make sure it stays nice and bright. So now we have our antiquing, gone the wrong way again. I figured out the problem when I teach class, the other camera is the opposite of this one. So when I switch back and forth, I have to remember which is which. So I think this is dry now, and I'm going to add a little bit of crackle down here on the bottom of the star. And I'm going with burnt umber on this. So I'm loading my stencil brush with burnt umber. Wipe a little bit of that off. Go back here and just put that crackle on this white and red area. Very light coverage. Little bit goes a long way. That's my motto. I think I want a little more crackle. I'll just kind of move it around. Add a little bit more. I can add as much or as little as oh, that looks great. Maybe a little bit more right in there. And I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but it looks really good. I like the control of the stencil, knowing exactly where the crackle's gonna go. I can control the intensity, not getting too much paint. It's kind of a safeguard. So we've been painting now for about a half an hour. We're almost finished with this ornament. Super easy.
Quick and easy.
Quick and easy. We like quick and easy. Let's add a little bit of a stripe on the banner, going with deep burgundy. And my Epic script liner. You want a good 18-aught script liner. My Epic script liner is that. It's very epic. And we'll just add a line. And one across the bottom. If your brush is loaded correctly, you should be able to paint those lines and not have to reload. And I can't go right to left, so I'm just going to flip it over. Follow that curve, it'll work out perfectly. Aha, there we go. Easy, right? Again, if you want this a little bit brighter, you can go back with white, kind of highlight the center of this, add a little bit of highlight on your stars. I like this antique look, Liberty. It's a good saying, but you could change it up and just put USA if you don't want to letter all of those little letters. Okay, to do the lettering, do a couple things. You can use your liner brush and paint the letters on, or you can use the micron. Is one easier than the other? It just depends on how comfortable you are with the micron and the pen. And what I would suggest, if you're working on an area that has guidelines on it, like these little stripes, you're in good shape. But if you are working on an area that does not, and you want your letters to curve, I would suggest putting down kind of a, that wasn't very parallel, a guideline so that you can put your letters on. And on this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the E is in the middle. That's where I start out with, in the middle. And this is with the micron. Just put those letters on there, and then you can go back and darken them in a little bit. Pull those little tags down, and boom, you've got your E. The R is right next to that. Don't think about these as letters as much as shapes. Fatten that down just a little bit. I need to put my glasses on because I cannot see. Tiny. I should be doing this on my piece, right? Okay, that's with the micron pen. If you're using your liner brush, I didn't bring black out, so I might have to use the pen.
You mean go get black?
No, it's all right. And this, I'm using Payne's Gray, so it's going to be a little bit not as intense as the black marker. Light touch. Lots of water. Have your paint nice and fluid, and then you can go ahead and just paint those letters in. This keeps your letters all the same height if you use that guideline. And honestly, if the letters are all similar height, they're going to look good. One thing nice about doing a primitive piece is they don't have to be perfect. You probably get the top of my head here. I do have a problem with spelling backwards. And that's fairly. Make the tops all kind of even, the bottoms even.
Libby asks if the micron pen will bleed when varnished.
It will not bleed when varnished if you let it dry well. What they do is they activate, the ink is transported with water so that if you brush over it before that has time to set up and really dry, the ink itself is India ink, so it will not bleed when it's dry. And I'd have my piece a little crooked. I like to fatten those corners just a touch.
Excuse me.
Kind of got shaky hands today. When you fatten these letters up, it makes such a difference. And put these little wings on them. Nobody likes to letter. Okay, that could have been done just a little bit better. But a simple way to add those on, if you're comfortable with a pen, use a pen. If you're not comfortable with a pen, go to your brush and just brush it on. If you can find a stencil that fits in there perfectly, a stamp, anything you want to use to do your lettering is a great way to add it to any design. So this is, okay. This is the finished piece with that star in the center. Great way, but wouldn't this be cute to put a bunch of these on a wreath and just put some little bows in around it? Add some just plain white stars on it. Just a fun way to decorate for the upcoming holiday. So I think we've kind of covered everything. I do varnish with the Ultra Matte varnish, or you can use the DecoArt spray varnish. Both of these are excellent. If you want to spray varnish first, if you're worried about the ink moving, give it a good spray varnish and then put a brush varnish over top of that. It's a great way to finish it up. Yes.
Don't forget that spray varnish is discontinued.
Yeah, DecoArt.
We do have the gloss though.
DecoArt is discontinuing all spray varnishes. It has something to do with the spray deal and the cans and availability and all that. So
No, just those two.
Just
gloss,
these two?
Yeah. As far as I know, it's not the triple thick.
Okay, glossy and the matte spray varnishes. So if you're a fan of these and want to stock up, we do still have quite a few in stock.
We don't have the matte. We
Oh,
only
we're
have
out of the
gloss.
matte. Okay.
Yeah,
Hang
remember,
on.
you took it off.
Okay. I did stock up on them. So remember to, but you know, I'm kind of a fan of this Ultra Matte varnish. I love the finish on it. It's no sheen to it. And it's a great way to finish it up and have a nice protective coverage on that. Okay, some things we need to talk about. Anyone have any questions before I put that away? Okay, I did do a patriotic piece. Let's go this way, Chris. This is my patriotic ride. I guess I'm doing a series of trucks. I did a Christmas one. I did an Easter one. This is my patriotic one. I've got several more coming up to finish or to add to the series. If you did any of the others, you can flip this over. It is just a tad bit smaller. We had to reduce the size of it by a half an inch, so I very carefully just took a little bit off the bottom and a teeny bit off the top too. It's for shipping package reasons. So this is super fun design, and I made it easy for everyone. I created a stencil for all the stuff that I didn't want to have to paint by hand. The lettering, the license plate, the flowers, the little sparkle on the firecrackers, and the tire tread, the grill for the truck. Just makes it super easy. So there is a bundle available. I just released it yesterday. So this is available on our website, www.cdwood.com.
And I just put the link up there.
Lindsay stuck the link in there. I put glossy accents on the headlights. I don't think you can see how they kind of look glassy. And of course I had to add some glamour dust on the sparklers just to make it very festive. I have fun doing this. I think you'll enjoy painting this one as well if you like doing the trucks. This is a super fun project. I'm anxious to start on the next one. My design club, these are the 3 that I've done for this year. This is an exclusive club, so these ornaments are not available unless you are a club member. I guess I could go this way. What I try to do with each one of these ornaments is incorporate a different technique in it, so that, I guess I should put that there, so that it's not just painting an ornament, but it's learning a technique type of thing. So check it out if you're interested. It goes year to year, so if you sign up now, you'll get these 3, and then every other month you'll receive another one through the end of the year. So that's a fun project. Might be a long summer, so we might need things to do. Facebook Live sale. Everyone's a fan of the Facebook Live sale coming up Tuesday, and we've always got great deals on that. Make sure you don't miss out because it is a fun time. Jen and Lindsay handle that, and if I'm not here, they kind of they get into trouble. So
It's not trouble.
no, they do.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans, yes. Shenanigans is what it's all about. Okay, so there is our project for today, the Liberty Star. I hope you enjoyed it and picked up a few tips and tricks to create some fun and interesting techniques to make this look a little bit different and add a little more pizzazz to your painting. So I hope you take these ideas and incorporate them into other areas of your painting to make it just a little more unique and a little more fun. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Lindsay, did we miss anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You want to talk about what's coming out? You're on its way?
On the what?
On the way? The new brushes?
Ah, my new brushes. I have some new brushes that I have designed. I did the awesome angle in the 1/8 inch and a radical round in a 5 inch or number 5. I have my stencil brushes. So I've been working for about a year now to create some new brushes. I like brushes that really do a fantastic job and make our painting life a little bit easier and a little less frustrating. So I think you're going to be excited. I'm hoping in the next couple weeks that I'll be able to ta-da, share these with you, but keep an eye out because they are coming up soon. For those of you that have been asking, I am also doing a patriotic tiered tray project, so that should be coming up shortly. I did a fun technique last night, and it's going to air next week.
Next Wednesday it'll be uploaded.
Next Wednesday, so it's, and
It'll be live.
I don't have it here, but it'll be a Create with Chris on our YouTube channel. It's a super fun technique. I'm excited because this is something that I thought we weren't going to be able to have anymore, and I played around with it last night. It's like, wow, this is super easy. So share that. And what else do we have? I think that's it. So
Yep.
keep your eyes on our, if you're not signed up for the YouTube Create with Chris, be sure you sign up, subscribe, and hit like, because then you'll get all the new videos. You won't be missing out on anything. And I'm trying to post more on there, so keep you guys busy. I know you all want things to do, but not only things to do, but things to, again, to make your painting life a little bit easier, a little less stressful, and a lot more fun. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to our next time together on Create with Chris. Bye-bye.